Welcome to the Burning River Browns Talk. Thank you for joining me. It is 9:40 p.m. on Wednesday, July 10th, 2024. I am the host, Lou Marconi, part of the Fanatical Elves Network, which is a subsidiary of the Fans First Sports Network. You can find me on Instagram at lmarconi251 and on X at lmarconi1973. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Please, Fanatical Elves Network, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. A lot of great people in the Fanatical Elves providing great Browns content. And we're getting closer to training camp. It's like I'm getting that anticipation and excitement. Can't wait. And I thought, like I said, I've been taking this direction with articles and content that I'm creating instead of arguing about an obscure list that somebody made that I never heard of about where Deshaun Watson should be, or Deshaun Watson should be, or where Miles Garrett should be versus TJ Watt. I'm not going to argue about that stupid stuff. I'm not. You know what stat I care about? Can I be honest with you? Is W's or L's. That's what I care about. I want to see wins. And how we win doesn't matter. We have a team capable of winning. But I took it upon myself to start going over some of the history of the team, especially for some of the younger fans that just aren't old enough to remember. And one part of the history of the Cleveland Browns that I thought was very interesting was the 1980 Cardiac Kids Cleveland Browns. And I'm going to talk about that. But first, before we go any further, I do need to take a break for our sponsors. All right, we're back. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. You guys are great. Thanks for hanging in here with me. Okay, getting into it. The 1980 Cleveland Browns. Let me kind of set the stage for that year, just so you have an understanding of where we were as a sports town. All right. I was 7 years old. So that's when I first started remembering the Browns. I was getting at that age when I was starting to, my dad paid attention. He watched every game. So let's take a look. Let's just go right here. In the 70s, the Browns, they last won a division championship was 1971. They made the playoffs last since 72. So this is the first time they made the playoffs in 8 years. First time they won a division in 9 years. So it's been almost a decade. And before that, from like the early 70s, basically since the mid 40s, the Browns had good teams every year. I mean, think about it. They won 8 world championships in their first 20 years of existence. So you're talking about a good solid 26 years of being a part of one of the top teams in the NFL. Well, in pro football, because the first 4 years they were 46, 47, 48, 49. They won the AAFC championships. They just completely dominated that league, and that's what caused the league to fold. And the Browns, the 49ers, and the Miami Seahawks moved to Baltimore and became the Baltimore Colts. Those three teams joined the NFL. But going to 1980. So the team really didn't do much for most of the 70s, while meanwhile the Pittsburgh Steelers were winning Super Bowls. And Cleveland Indians were just cellar dwellers every year. They just weren't doing anything. Cavaliers, they were an expansion team in 1970, but 76 was the Miracle Richfield year, and they won a playoff series and they made it to the conference finals at that time. And when Jim Jones broke his foot, that pretty much ended their run because they lost to the Celtics in 6 games. And the Celtics went on to win the NBA championship that year. So, hey, you have your breaks, literally. But Cavaliers weren't anything after that. It was just like one miracle year in the 70s. So we were really in a dark time as a sports town, and we were hungry. We were hungry for a winner. And in comes the 1980 Cleveland Browns, the AKA the Cardiac Kids. Cardiac Kids was cardiac was spelled with a K, kids obviously with a K as well. And the reason why they were called that because they had so many games that came down to the last play or the last minute. It was like you're going to have a heart attack at every game. And that's pretty much what it was. And what contributed to that was the coach Sam Rutigliano was he's like a riverboat gambler type. That's the way my dad described him. And he basically gambled himself out of a job because he stayed with the team for a long time. I think he if I'm not mistaken, he was the head coach for about 6 years. from 78 up until about midway through 84. He was fired and Marty Schottenheimer took over, which Marty Schottenheimer is somebody else we could talk about too. That's another whole episode. But the 1980 Cleveland Browns went 11-5, beating the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati on the final game of the season to clinch the then AFC Central Division Championship. So they did that, and that they hosted a playoff game. They were the number 2 seed, I believe, in the AFC, and they had to host a playoff game. And that playoff game they hosted was against the infamous Oakland Raiders, the divisional game. It was January 4th, 1981. I wasn't at the game. My older brother was at the game. The, the wind chill was negative 36 degrees Fahrenheit. That's how cold it was. The wind was swirling. It was just a miserable, miserable day to sit in a game and to play a football game, but we did it. The final score was 14-12 Oakland. Let me describe how the game went, because this has really effectively ended this magical run, and it's sad. But Don Cockroft missed 2 field goal attempts, which was rare. He was usually a very good and very reliable kicker, but the weather was the reason for it. Yeah, I'm getting to it, Steve. I'm getting to it. I'm building up to that. Yep, I watched it with my dad on TV too. So the Don Cockroft missed 2 field goal attempts. So the Browns drove less than a minute to go. They were on the Oakland 13-yard line. What Sam Rutigliano could have done, he could have ran the ball, had a field goal attempt, won the game 15-14. Could have done it. Might have made, look in hindsight, might have been a better choice from 44 years ago. But he decided to dial up a pass play. And as Steve Heinrich pointed out, the infamous red right 88. Brian Sipe goes back to the pass. Ball was intercepted by Oakland Raiders defensive back Mike Davis. Effectively, the game was over. The season was over. Just a disappointment. Yep, that was the infamous red right 88. Why am I talking about this? Because I think it's important. I think it's important to understand the history of the Cleveland Browns and what these fans have been through. Not even talking about the drive or the fumble or, the 1989 blowout. We can get to that. I can get to that. We're talking about the move or all this other stuff and all this negative stuff. That's all done. We can't go back and change it, but we can learn from it. And I think the thing to learn is that the 1980 Cleveland Browns were a special team. It was a special team because we made it special because we were behind them. And these are great memories they gave us, winning these games, winning the division, making the run they made, and hosting a home playoff game. That's something that hasn't happened at the new Cleveland Browns Stadium. And it's been there for almost 30 years. It's been 25 years, and we haven't hosted a playoff game. I think it's time we do. I think it's time come January 2025, we host a playoff game in that stadium. I think it's time we win a division championship. And I think it's time we host the AFC championship game in that stadium. Tell me what you think. Why not? All right. Thank you for joining me. That's going to do it for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night. And then we have our Friday night edition, 9 o'clock on Friday. I will have Jarrell from the Fanatical Elves Network going to be joining us, Ed in Columbus from the Dog Chug, and of course, my wonderful kosher co host, Sherry. We're all going to be there. We're going to have a great time. So, guys, thank you for joining me. Much appreciated, much obliged. I am Lou Marconi at Marconi251 on Instagram, at Marconi 1973 on Twitter X for the Burning River Browns talk on the Fanatical Elves Network, which is a part of which is a subsidiary of the Fans First Sports Network. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Please, we enjoy the support. We enjoy this. Thank you very much for everything. And always remember, when the river burns, it burns brown and orange. Have a great day.